For 16 centuries, the world ran on rules we would not recognize. Genesis records men who lived not 70 or 80 years, but nearly 1,000. Adam lived 930 years. Seth, 912. Generation after generation. The same pattern, and every entry closes with 3 words that fall like spadefuls of earth onto a grave. And he died. However long the life, however much power a man gathered, the sentence pronounced in Eden kept working itself out. And the very first thing that happened after humanity left the garden was not a home, not a field. It was a killing. 2 brothers brought offerings to God. When Cain's was not received as Abel's was, God warned him plainly. Sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is contrary to you, but you must rule over it. Cain chose the door anyway. Cain rose up against his brother and killed him. When God confronted him, Cain did not break. Am I my brother's keeper? He did not mourn his brother. He complained that his punishment was too heavy to bear. The first murderer cast himself as the victim. Then he walked east, away from the presence of the Lord, into a land whose very name means wandering. And there, with his brother's blood still on his hands, Cain built the first city named in human history. He founded not just a settlement, but a way of living, a civilization with walls and gates and everything a society needs except the one thing it was made for. No altar, no worship, no turning back. That bloodline advanced with frightening speed. From it came Lamech, the first man recorded to take 2 wives. And from his household came the founders of music and metalwork, Jubal, father of all who play the lyre, and Tubal-Cain, forger of bronze and iron, and with him, the first weapons. The inventor of music and the maker of weapons were brothers. Beauty and bloodshed grew from the same roof. And Lamech left us the first recorded human poem, not a song of praise, but a boast that he had killed a man for merely wounding him, and would be avenged 77-fold. Violence, not hidden in shame, but sung. But Cain's was not the only line. After Abel's death, Eve bore Seth, and at that time, people began to call upon the name of the Lord. Two humanities walked the same ground in opposite directions for centuries. From Seth's line came Enoch, who walked with God and simply was not, for God took him, the one man in that violent age who never tasted death. From the same line came Methuselah, who lived longer than any man in Scripture, and his grandson, Noah. Now imagine those lifespans applied not to the godly line, but to men like Lamech, a tyrant who does not fall at 70, but rules for 700 years, gathering power with no death to end his reign. Evil does not simply happen and fade in such a world. It accumulates. It refines itself across centuries inside a single living memory. And then something crossed over that was never meant to enter the human story. Genesis says the sons of God saw the daughters of man were beautiful and took wives for themselves. Every other time that phrase appears in the Old Testament, it names heavenly beings, not men. The New Testament seems to assume the same reading. Jude writes of angels who left their proper dwelling, now kept in chains of darkness until judgment. Peter says God did not spare the angels who sinned. Both writers place this rebellion right before the flood. Ancient Jewish tradition preserved in the book of Enoch. Not scripture, but a window into how the earliest readers understood these verses. Describes heavenly watchers descending on Mount Hermon, binding themselves by oath, and taking human wives. From that union came the Nephilim, the fallen ones, called also the Gibborim, the mighty men of renown. When the Greek translators of the Septuagint reached for a word, they chose gigantes, giants. Tradition says these beings devoured the harvests of humanity, then the people themselves, then the very animals, until the ground ran with blood. The earth was filled with Hamas, brutal, lawless cruelty, and the cry of the dying, that same tradition says, rose to the gates of heaven, echoing the moment Cain's brother's blood cried out from the ground. Why permit such a thing? Because in Eden, God had promised that a child of the woman would one day crush the head of the serpent, a rescuer coming through one unbroken human bloodline. If that bloodline could be corrupted, the promise itself was under attack. The flood, then, was not only judgment, it was the preservation of a promise. The verdict came with unbearable precision. Every intention of the thoughts of man's heart was only evil, continually. And the Lord regretted that he had made man, and it grieved him to his heart. Not fury first, sorrow first. A father finding nothing left in his children that he recognized. Yet in that same breath, mercy. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Noah was blameless in his generation, a man who walked with God, a single point of light in a world that had forgotten light existed. God gave him instructions that must have sounded like madness. Build an ark, 300 cubits long, on dry land, far from any sea, for a catastrophe with no precedent, no word to describe it. Decades of hammering, and not one neighbor believing him. Then came 7 days of warning, animals arriving on their own from every direction, and one sentence that changes everything. The Lord shut him in, not Noah, God with his own hand. When that door closed, the time of grace was over. The fountains of the great deep burst forth, and the windows of heaven opened. Water rushed up from below and down from above. The very waters God had separated at creation, now rushing back together. It was not merely a disaster. It was the undoing of creation itself. Every mountain, every city, every forge sank into silence. Nearly every ancient people on earth remembers in some form a great flood. Mesopotamia, India, China, the Americas. As if humanity, for all it has forgotten, could never fully erase the memory of the waters. Then, after the long months, God remembered Noah. The waters fell. The ark rested on Ararat. A dove returned with an olive leaf. And when Noah stepped onto dry ground, his first act told you everything. He did not build a city as Cain had. He built an altar. God set his bow in the clouds. In Hebrew, the word for a weapon of war, drawn back and aimed at heaven itself, as if to say that should judgment ever fall again, the one who holds the bow will take the arrow into himself. But the water washed the world. It did not wash the human heart. Sin rode safely through the flood, hidden in the very family that was saved, and surfaced again in Noah's own household. The flood answered a question humanity has asked ever since. Can we be made clean by starting over with a fresh world? The answer was no. The problem was never outside. It was inside. That kind of corruption water could never reach. 2,000 years later, Jesus sat on the Mount of Olives and pointed back to that very world. As were the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Of every dark age he could have named, he chose that one. And the word he used was not violence, not evil. It was unaware. They were eating, drinking, marrying, until the flood came and swept them all away. That is the most chilling lesson of the world before the flood. Its horror was not that it committed extraordinary evil. Its horror was that evil had become so ordinary, no one could see it anymore. Some scholars note that the name Methuselah may carry the sense, when he dies, it shall come. His genealogy places his death in the very year the flood arrived. The patience of God, walking the earth for nearly 1,000 years in a single life, giving the world every possible day to turn. As Peter would later write, the Lord is not slow to fulfill his promise, but is patient, not wishing that any should perish,